Okay, Dr. Steppe. Oh, you printed out the picture.
Yes.
That's very nice. Okay, Dr. Steppe, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Naa-Anorkor Okai. I don't have any accolades. I'm just a lovely woman that lives in the neighborhood. Been in San Diego since 94. 96. And meeting you the other day was the very first time that I ever met you. Mm-hmm. But the things that you said on this stage just really piqued my curiosity, really piqued my interest. I love the fact that you were so open and so strong as an individual. And then when you said you was 91, that was like, what? This man don't look no older than 60. What are you talking about? But we don't age. Because when people see me and they see my children, they always assume that we're all brothers and sisters as opposed to them being my children. Mm-hmm. You know, and I have a son that's 6'4", and they always assume that I'm his girlfriend as opposed to his mother. And that's caused some problems in the past.
I can imagine.
You know, so I'm a migrant. I come from, when I say migrant, okay, I'm not a migrant, but I'm a transition person to San Diego. Mm-hmm. I was born and raised in New York. Okay, my father is West African from Ghana, and my mother is Native American, and they met in New York in college. Mm-hmm. And so I'm first generation Ghanaian. I was born here. I do have older siblings. Everybody's older than me. My father had 4 wives at the time, and when he got with my mom, then at that time he had already had 4 children, and then with my mom he had 2. So my mom is his 4th wife. He was a king and a chief. You know, I don't know how much that equates to anything or any respect for anybody here in the United States. People don't really tend to understand that, and that's okay. But I'm just giving you a little bit of history about who I am. I consider myself a mother of 7. However, I only gave birth to 2. So my second husband that I married had already had 5 children before he and I had children. Mm-hmm. So that's where I get the number 7 from. Because I helped raise 3 of my boys and at least one of the other daughters. One of them I never raised at all. So I've been here in San Diego. I own my house. I'm known to a lot of different people because I like people. Mm-hmm. I like getting to know people. I like finding out what they have to offer. I like, you know, just being of service to people. And because my children have grown up here in San Diego, of course, they've done different things like Kuumba Fest, or, you know, we know Dahan, we know this person, we know that person, we know Dennis Newsom, we know Chuck Ambers, you know, because I'm a cultivated individual. I'm not somebody that just is meek and sits in the corner. So my kids are very diverse and very, you know, let's say, well-oriented. So now you know a little bit about me. Is there anything else that you would like to know?
That's more than enough.
Okay. So now let's get down to the nitty-gritty about you. Because even before I knew what I found out, like I said, you had intrigued me with just a little bit that you said on that stage. So I would like to know, what is your passions?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me make one correction for you. I'll turn 91 Wednesday, the 31st of January. I'm 90 years old at this moment.
Okay.
91, the 31st of this month.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful.
I came to San Diego when I was a year old. My mother brought my brothers, there were 3 of us, from Versailles, Kentucky, after she and my father got divorced.
Okay.
Her sister was here, and her brother, my uncle Thomas, And I think one of the things that I really, when you talk about my background, what feeds my interest and soul, a lot of men in this community assume they are all that and developed everything, but it's not true. My Aunt Rebecca was a school teacher in Kentucky, but couldn't get a job in San Diego as a school teacher because they weren't hiring black school teachers. They weren't hiring black police officers either. And so she formed what is still in existence, the Women's Civic League.
Okay.
And it's this group of women. And I, as a young child, one of the things at our house, every Saturday was clean up the house day. The only time you went into the living room was when you had company.
Right.
So on Sunday, after we come from church, we would all sit down and have a full dinner, the entire family. And it would be napkins and silverware. It was my Aunt Rebecca really trying to get us into a cultural lens of how to deal with life in a very sound way.
Right.
But having sat with her while she met with the chiefs of police and while she met with some of the mayors and all the rest of the dignitaries in this community, pushing them about black development, I think those are the seeds that have entered my mind and has been kind of my guiding principle the rest of my life.
Okay.
And so part of it really stems to San Diego, small hick town, is now just so simply a larger hick town. I had the opportunity, I went to the Air Force in 1952.
Okay.
I was a student at City College. It had just grown up. I graduated San Diego High School in 1951. 1951, on the campus of San Diego High School, they started the community college. So I was one of the first students into the community college. But I had decided that the Korean War was going on. I knew that I was going to be drafted. I knew I couldn't swim, so I wasn't going to be in the Navy. I couldn't drink the ocean trying to save myself.
Right.
I didn't want to lay in the dirt forever and a day, so I joined the Air Force.
Okay.
Spent 4 years in the Air Force. Had a wonderful opportunity. It was intriguing to me because I really didn't understand it. Somehow, with the enlistment, I had been listed as Caucasian.
Oh, that's a benefit.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
When we flew from our home base in San Antonio, Texas, to our first school, I was flying first class, and my partners were back in the back. And it was every morning, once I got into my first technical school, it was an opportunity to learn how to type and all the rest of that stuff. The commander would call me into his office every morning and accuse me of fraudulent enlistment. At 19 years of age, I just went along with the program until I got tired of it. And I said, man, how in the name of hell could I ever pass for being white?
Right.
I have all the documents that demonstrate this is exactly what occurred. He finally sent the information off to headquarters, and they re-identified me as African American. And so that to me, and why I wanted these documents, because I thought nobody in life is ever going to believe I was ever considered Caucasian.
Right.
You know. So that was the beginning for me.
Okay.
And so as the went on, I developed a total security clearance, became a cryptographer dealing with secret devices, dealing with messages from the battle zones all the way to Washington and to Texas, our headquarters.
Right.
And I would be the typist with the computer equipment, and the general would be there dictating, and I would be typing. And so when I would read in the paper about things that were occurring, I'm sitting here knowing that's not the truth.
Right. The twist that they put on you.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting beginning. Came back 1956. My wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, but we had gone to school together. So she had a son. She had married one of my best friend's older brother, which didn't work out, so she and I got together. And then after a few years, we got married. And so now we have 5 children. My oldest son, 73 years of age. My youngest daughter is 61.
Was that the young lady that was directing me in reference to giving you some time the other day? She was sitting next to you. Was that her?
No. That was my daughter-in-law.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure that that's still recorded. Is it still recording? Is the numbers going up on it? No, I hope so.
I can't tell.
Yes, it's still recording. Okay, great.
So whenever you want me to stop, otherwise I'll just keep telling you my history.
Well, I do want you to pause, because when you say that you was classified as being white, that gave you opportunities that didn't give everybody else. Like you said, they were in the back, you were in the front. So when you got to the base, did they allow you to go to a school where you could obtain an education different than being in the kitchen and being in the, in the fields? Because that's normally what they did to us back then.
No, that didn't happen to me. I was there for educational purposes, and that's how I stayed. And I went from that school, clerk typist was the beginning. Then I went off to, where was it? I went off to my next tech school, which was cryptography, learning how to manage these secret devices and all the rest.
But did they allow you to do that simply because you were classified as white?
No, I don't think so.
Did they have those opportunities for African Americans back then too?
Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I think once I got enough steam to be able to confront the commander, because I wasn't raised in an environment of scream, yell, and holler, and finally he said, well, okay, and he sent all the paperwork necessary to headquarters, and he had all of that, and he gave me copies of everything, because I wanted to make sure that I was not being treated as white. I wanted to be treated for what I am.
Right. Okay.
And so for the rest of my career, for the last 3.5 years, I was always a black man.
Right, okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Did you enjoy being in part of the Air Force?
Yes, I did. I learned a lot, particularly my 1.5 years in Japan. And it was the University of Japan in Tokyo was right around the corner from what I consider to be the greatest jazz club in the country.
There you go.
And I could go in and I could hear all the latest records and sounds from the States. I began struggling trying to learn Japanese because I decided I wasn't going to play the typical American GI stuff.
Right.
And they were speaking perfect English, so we began to communicate.
Right.
And began to understand the cultural configurations of the Japanese culture.
Okay.
And it was there that I decided I was going to be, when I came back, I was going to get my degree. And I was going to do something that would really make my Aunt Rebecca proud, my mother, my family, because everything about me at that point, driven by my belief of increasing my ability while I was in Japan, everything from then is just exactly what has occurred for me.
Right.
I came back, married now, had a stepson, wife pregnant. They were hiring black bus drivers at San Diego Transit, which was a family-owned company. Percy Steele was the director of the Urban League, and so I'm working downtown. Urban League was downtown, and he saw me one day and said, Cecil, you want to be a bus driver? I said, man, if I could make $100 in a week, it's like I died and went to heaven. Yeah, I'll go anywhere. So they sent me over. I sat through an interview, and whatever, they had hired 3 black men, and everything about us is when they have the first, they have a very small number. It's almost like I'm going to see what you folks are going to be able to do.
Right.
And so they must have found something enjoyable in me, and they decided that they would offer me a job in the mechanical department.
Okay.
And I asked how much was the salary, and when they told me that, yes. So I started as a bus cleaner.
Okay.
And I worked my way up to, at a point now, I had learned enough about the mechanical needs of buses that on the weekend, when I was a office in one of the downtown offices, I was one of the few individuals when a bus would break down, either I or my other partner, they'd send us out, take a bus. And our job was to see if we could make it work to bring it back. Otherwise, we'd have to call in and get a tow truck. So I did that, and I was working full-time, going to school full-time, and without my wife, it would not have been even possible.
Okay, and your reasons for saying that is?
Well, because she understood my drive, my concerns, which meant that I wasn't going to be in a position where I spent a lot of time at home.
Okay.
And I was, at one point, I was working 3 jobs.
Okay.
And my goal was I wanted to buy a house. That to me was the major effort. And I wanted to be in a position where I didn't have a whole lot of bills to pay.
Right.
And so she was working part-time. And I think she is the reason that I was able to accomplish much. And I honor that in so many ways. We were married 59 years. I lost her in 2015.
Okay.
But at the same time, I still have the urge to talk with her and say, baby, let me show you what I'm doing now.
Right.
Because that's been kind of the drive underneath that, between my Aunt Rebecca and my wife and my family. And I've been, with my 5 children, all but one have retired. My oldest son was a police officer. That was my stepson.
Okay.
He retired from the San Diego Police Department. My first son, my son, Russell, was a captain in the fire department here in San Diego.
Okay.
My second son, Stephen, is an electrician. He teaches electricity. My oldest daughter, Cecily, she had been a police officer in town for 5 years.
Okay.
Got married and developed her own limousine company. My youngest daughter was the smartest of them all. She was a graduate from Stanford, a lawyer, now has her own children in Houston, and 2 of her kids are at Stanford right now.
Okay.
And the whole thing, when I think of all 5 of them, they make a blessing for my wife and I, and my Aunt Rebecca and my mother, because they understand the lineage, they understand the historical perspective going forward.
Hello, sweetie. Come on in.
Sorry to interrupt your meeting.
No worries. I'll pause it so that you can